Welcome back to the Explainer. So, in our last lesson, we broke down the TCP/IP model and really got into how the internet organizes communication. Well, today we're building directly on that foundation. We are exploring the absolute bedrock technology that physically powers your office, massive cloud infrastructure, and literally the internet itself. We're talking about Ethernet. But before we really jump in, I want you to think about a super fundamental question. How exactly does communication happen over physical cables? Think about a busy office floor, right? You've got 50 laptops, 20 printers, servers buzzing away. How do they all share the same communication channels? More importantly, how do they avoid total absolute chaos over those wires? And how does each device know exactly who should receive which piece of data? Okay, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to hit 5 key points: the invisible digital backbone, solving the communication problem, anatomy of an Ethernet frame, collisions and traffic control, and lastly, the power behind the cloud. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how Ethernet standardizes data delivery everywhere, from a tiny local network all the way up to a giant global data center. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the invisible digital backbone. We need to get our definition straight right out of the gate because honestly, this is fundamentally misunderstood by a lot of beginners. The crucial point here is that Ethernet is not just that physical copper or fiber optic cable you plug into the wall. Not at all. It is the universal standard that dictates how local communication actually happens. It's the rulebook. It defines how your data is formatted, how those physical, electrical, or optical signals travel, and how devices locally identify each other. Moving right along to Section 2, solving the communication problem. So why was this rulebook such a massive game changer when it was invented? Well, if you look at the pre-Ethernet era, networking systems were a mess. It was totally fragmented. You had this severe lack of standards resulting in huge vendor incompatibility issues. Basically, if you bought network gear from vendor A, it simply could not talk to hardware from vendor B. But enter the Ethernet era. This new standard brought in universal rules. Suddenly, hardware from all over the world could interoperate reliably, and that standardization single-handedly sent global networking adoption through the roof. To really visualize this, think about the mail system. Just like a physical package absolutely has to have a sender address, a recipient address, in a standard box format before you hand it to the post office, your digital data needs the exact same structure. In Ethernet networking, those delivery instructions are your source MAC address and your destination MAC address, and it's all packed neatly inside what we call an Ethernet frame. Which brings us to Section 3, anatomy of an Ethernet frame. Let's actually crack open one of these digital packages and see what's traveling across the wire. Now, instead of just blasting raw, chaotic binary code down a cable, which, would be totally impossible for the receiving machine to actually decipher, an Ethernet frame is a highly structured package. It carries your actual payload data, plus the essential delivery instructions, the destination and source MAC addresses, protocol info, and error detection info. This setup completely guarantees the network knows exactly who sent it, who it's for, and whether or not it arrived intact. But wait a second. This highly organized system faces a massive physical obstacle. What happens when laptop A and laptop B try to send their beautiful, perfectly structured Ethernet frames on the exact same shared cable at the exact same millisecond? Let's solve that in Section 4, collisions and traffic control. Imagine a two-way highway suddenly crammed into a single lane. If you've got two cars trying to drive in opposite directions at the same time, they're going to crash, right? Traffic completely stops. Well, early shared networks suffered from this exact problem. Having multiple devices sharing one cable created signal collisions, and that severely corrupted the data traveling across the wire. The evolution of how engineers fix this is super interesting. Early networks used a protocol called CSMA/CD. It basically told devices, hey, listen for a clear line before you send anything. Wait if it's busy. Stop if a collision happens. It worked, but it was pretty slow. Now look at the modern solution, switches. Instead of all these devices fighting over one collision-prone cable, modern switches physically read the MAC addresses on incoming frames and forward the traffic on dedicated, separate paths. It basically eliminates collisions altogether. And because those switch architectures cleared up the traffic jams, Ethernet speeds have been able to evolve dramatically. We went from early speeds of just 10 megabits per second up to 100 megabits, then shattered the 1 gigabit barrier. Today, we're seeing systems support 10, 40, 100, and even a blazing fast 400 gigabit Ethernet. To put that into perspective for you, 400 gigabits could transfer an entire 4K movie in a fraction of a single second. It's wild. Which perfectly sets up Section 5, the power behind the cloud. This is how Ethernet scales to run the modern digital world. You might be wondering, why don't massive cloud providers like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud just use Wi-Fi to connect their servers? It all comes down to deterministic reliability. Wi-Fi is great, but it's variable and prone to interference. Ethernet, on the other hand, gives you ultra-high speed, incredibly low latency, and the rock-solid, predictable reliability that critical data center infrastructure absolutely demands.
And here is a truth that trips up so many IT professionals. Even though the modern cloud feels entirely virtual and weightless, abstract tools like virtual machines, Docker containers, and Kubernetes, they still fundamentally rely on physical servers exchanging physical Ethernet frames underneath it all. The infrastructure might be abstracted by fancy software, but the core fundamentals of wired communication, those remain exactly the same.
So what's the real takeaway for you here? Well, make sure you avoid these 3 beginner pitfalls. Mistake 1, thinking Ethernet is just the cables. Remember, it's the standard. Mistake 2, assuming Wi-Fi replaced it. The cloud proves it definitely hasn't. And mistake 3, ignoring MAC addresses. Whether you're a cybersecurity engineer analyzing MAC spoofing or a DevOps engineer managing high-speed servers, knowing how Ethernet fundamentally works is an absolutely essential skill for your career. Let's put the whole puzzle together and see it end to end. Step 1, your device generates data. Step 2, an Ethernet frame is created, stamping on those crucial source and destination MAC addresses. Step 3, the frame travels down the physical cable. Step 4, the switch reads that destination MAC and forwards the frame down a dedicated path. And finally, Step 5, the destination successfully receives the data. That right there is the invisible digital backbone in action. It is truly fascinating that the absolute cutting edge of the internet runs heavily on Ethernet, a technology created decades ago. But that leaves us with a huge lingering mystery. If modern AI infrastructure still depends on these Ethernet frames, how do these massive networks actually discover each other as MAC addresses in the first place? If your laptop only has an IP address for a destination, how on earth does it find the physical MAC address to put on the frame? That is exactly what we'll be uncovering in our next explainer when we dive into ARP. Until then, keep analyzing your networks.